I want a divorce. I've found someone who actually brings me happiness. My name is Nathan Bell. I'm 45 years old, and I work as a financial systems analyst for Orbis Union in Richmond, Virginia. That message popped up while I was at my desk on a Wednesday morning, triple-checking a client's fraud detection algorithms. Dana, my wife, was supposed to be attending a marketing conference in Dallas for 3 days. She called it routine. My phone buzzed again. She said she'd already moved our retirement funds into her private account and that I could keep the house because she didn't want it anymore. I set down my coffee, opened my banking app, and checked the balances. Something was off, but not in the way she expected. I typed back, "I hope you're happy." That was all. No fight, no begging, just 7 simple words. The next hour, I watched every line item update across 3 separate dashboard systems. I ran all our joint accounts through my consolidated monitoring platform, something I built myself: retirement, investments, emergency funds, even the checking account Dana thought was hers alone. When she started those transfers, multiple fraud detection systems kicked in. My system didn't care about emotions or our marriage status. It saw 6-figure transactions moving without proper 2-party approval, federal anti-fraud protocols triggered automatically by noon. My phone was flooded with alerts, not from Dana, but from the receiving bank. Account review initiated, deposits frozen pending investigation. I didn't smile or celebrate. I just closed the alerts and went back to work. Someone else's financial security depended on me. Now Dana's phone would start buzzing soon enough when she tried to access the money and found her balance at 0. The system shows no mercy for poor decisions. I'd learned that from watching accounts freeze during suspicious activity investigations. Money doesn't care about love, betrayal, or timing. It follows rules, and Dana had just broken every single one. We'd been married for 22 years. High school sweethearts from Petersburg. I was always the numbers guy, calculating baseball strike rates and tracking our senior class fundraising down to the penny. Dana was the social butterfly. Everything a marketing professional should be: charming, persuasive, always networking. "You're too careful with money," she'd say, after I'd triple-check our tax returns. "Someone has to be," I'd reply. It had worked for years. I managed our finances while she built her career at Valerie Marketing Group. She traveled a lot. Workshops in Austin, seminars in Phoenix, always networking, always for the company. The warning signs came slowly, like a mist settling on water. 6 months ago, she stopped asking about our retirement projections. 3 months back, she opened a credit card without telling me. 2 weeks before her trip, she mentioned the guest room was too cluttered. "Who even visits anymore?" she asked. My sister noticed Dana seemed distant during Thanksgiving. I told her it was just work stress. But Dana wasn't stressed. She was planning. While I maintained our consolidated financial tracking system, something I'd built after a client's failed audit that cost them millions, Dana had been studying it too, learning its blind spots. Except my system had no blind spots. Every account was connected, every transfer monitored, not because I distrusted her, but from years of catching client fraud attempts and understanding how money moves when people want to stay hidden. The Tuesday night before she left for Dallas, she was unusually curious about our retirement balances. "How much do we have in total?" she asked over dinner. "About 800,000 between us," I told her. "Why?" "Just curious," she said now. That curiosity made perfect sense. She'd been calculating her exit plan. I thought about calling her mom, her best friend Patricia, or my own parents. But what would I say? "Your daughter tried to steal our retirement and got caught by fraud detection?" It sounded absurd, like something out of a soap opera. Instead, I made myself dinner, watched the news, and checked the alerts once more. The transfers were still frozen. The fraud investigation would take 5 to 7 business days before the funds were released or returned. Dana had gambled on acting fast, hoping to get everything before I noticed, before the system caught up. She forgot that in all our years together, I'd never missed a financial detail. The call came Friday morning at 11:30. "Nathan, my card isn't working," she said, her voice carrying that controlled panic I recognized from failed presentations. Mild annoyance masked as panic. "What's your balance?" I asked. "Zero." "How is it zero?" "I transferred," she said. I heard her breathe, then silence. "What did you do?" "Nothing," I said honestly. The fraud system flagged unusual transfers from protected retirement accounts. Federal law requires review for large withdrawals without joint authorization. More silence. "How long?" 5 to 7 business days, maybe longer if issues arise. She hung up. I sat in my home office staring at the fraud alerts and sipping coffee. Something inside me had shifted. Not anger, not exactly betrayal, just clarity. For 22 years, I'd protected our financial future, saved carefully, invested wisely, built systems to catch problems before they happened. And the woman I'd done all this for had decided to take everything and disappear. But it wasn't the money that hurt. It was the cold efficiency of her betrayal. A text, a transfer, goodbye. Like closing a business deal, I pulled up our investment portfolio. Without Dana's transfers, our retirement accounts remained intact. The house we bought 5 years ago for $300,000 was now worth nearly 5 times that my modest stocks in individual accounts, our savings bonds. Everything was still there, protected by the protocols I built while she was off at networking events. My phone showed 23 texts from Dana Friday afternoon. I didn't read them. What was there to say? The divorce lawyer I spoke to Saturday was sympathetic but straightforward. "File now. Document everything." The attempted financial misconduct would work in my favor. I filed Monday morning simple papers. No alimony, no splitting of unaffected assets. Just divorce. The house stayed in my name. I didn't touch our joint checking account. It still had a $3,000 balance Dana could have. That by Tuesday, reality had settled in. I wasn't the vengeful type. I never had been. But I wasn't naive either. The very systems I built to protect our clients at Orbis Union had protected me. Banking algorithms don't care about marriage vows. They care about patterns, authorization, and compliance. Dana had broken every rule while thinking she was being smart. I went to work, ate lunch at my desk, and reviewed fraud cases. The irony wasn't lost on me. When the weekend came, I cleaned out the guest room Dana had complained about, donated her old books, and boxed up photos, not out of anger, but out of practicality. The life I once knew effectively ended with a single text, yet the safeguards I had established remained intact. Sometimes, the most prudent strategies are those you hope never to deploy, and yet, when the moment arrives, they protect you without effort on your part. Dana brought on Patricia Martinez as her legal counsel, someone I recognized from neighborhood barbecues, always eager to discuss legal loopholes and crafty workarounds. They submitted a motion accusing me of deliberately engineering the freeze on our accounts. The documents claimed, "Your husband exploited his financial expertise to sabotage shared marital assets." I met with my attorney, William Brooks, a former banker now practicing at West Hill Legal. After reading the motion, he chuckled, "They're going with misconduct? That's audacious, given the fraud alerts are triggered automatically by the system, not by any manual intervention." The hearing was set for 2 weeks later. Meanwhile, on Sunday night, Dana called the house 17 times. Eventually, I answered, "Nathan, you have to call the bank and tell them this was authorized. I'm stranded." "Where exactly are you?" "Phoenix. I'm staying with friends." "Phoenix isn't Dallas." Silence followed. "It's complicated." "I'm sure it is." "Did you reach out to your conference organizer, your boss at Valerie?" "Don't start with me." "Just asking, since you're supposed to be at a work event." And then she hung up. Monday brought fresh developments. My fraud monitoring flagged multiple attempts by Dana to apply for credit cards using our joint address. 3 applications in just 2 days. All were rejected because of the ongoing fraud investigation. She had boxed herself into a financial corner. No accessible funds, frozen credit, and travel limited to whatever cash she carried. Tuesday, Patricia called me directly. "This is getting complicated, Nathan. Your wife needs money for basic expenses. She can use the joint checking account. We have $3,000 sitting there untouched." That amount is hardly sufficient. It's what we always kept for emergencies. Dana had thought it reasonable to transfer $800,000 without any conversation. Patricia ended the call Wednesday, brought an unexpected revelation. Alan Murphy, Dana's supervisor at Valerie, phoned me with concerns. Was Dana really at that Dallas conference? HR has no record of her registering. I hesitated, considering whether to lie to shield her. "You'd have to ask her. She's not returning my messages. We've noticed oddities in her expense reports as well." My stomach twisted. This wasn't merely a personal betrayal. It involved professional misconduct. I can't comment on that. "Understood. If she contacts you, never mind." "Thanks, Nathan." The fraud investigation expanded. Bank officials contacted me directly. "Sir, over the last 18 months, we uncovered multiple irregular transfers between corporate and personal accounts, all originating from the same workstation IP. Dana hadn't simply stolen from us. She was funneling company money. My orderly, quiet life was completely shattered. The pillars I relied upon, our marriage, trust, honesty, felt utterly broken. But I hadn't driven her to crime. I had simply constructed systems that detected wrongdoing when it occurred." On Thursday morning, Patricia filed an emergency motion seeking funds for Dana's living expenses. The judge scheduled an expedited hearing for Friday. I prepared carefully, printing bank records, fraud alerts, and transfer logs. My training in finance took charge. Facts speak louder than allegations. The night before the hearing, Dana texted, "I'm sorry it's come to this." I didn't reply. Apologies after attempted theft carry little weight. Friday dawned cold and gray at the courthouse. I saw Dana for the first time since she left for the conference. She appeared smaller, pale. "Why?" she whispered in the hallway. "Why? Why did I notice? Why did the system work? Why did you try to take everything?" She had no response. The hearing lasted just 20 minutes. The judge reviewed the automated fraud holds and ruled that granting access to the joint checking account was sufficient for basic needs. During the investigation, Dana left with nothing. Her own scheme had ensnared her. The next Monday brought an unexpected visitor. Gregory Harris, an investigator from Eastern Financial Compliance, appeared in my office. "Mr. Bell, we've uncovered systematic fraud involving your wife and several corporate accounts. We need your expertise." "I'm not involved." "We know that. That's why we want your help. Your fraud detection system spotted patterns we overlooked." Over coffee in our conference room, Gregory outlined the scope. Dana hadn't acted alone. Thomas Wade, another executive at Valerie Marketing, helped weave a complex network of transfers, diverting corporate marketing funds into personal accounts for nearly 2 years. Your system's alerts led us to audit their entire division. "How much money?" "Preliminary estimates are around $2 million across multiple accounts." I felt nauseated. While I had tracked our personal finances with extreme care, my wife was orchestrating corporate embezzlement. This betrayal ran deeper than a failed marriage. What now? "A federal investigation is underway. Your personal accounts are already segregated from the business fraud case, but we require documentation proving you had no knowledge or involvement." I handed over everything: tax returns, personal finance statements, audit trails from my monitoring systems, every piece of evidence showing I designed these protections to prevent theft, not facilitate it. Dana texted that evening, "They say it's federal charges. They believe I took millions. I didn't respond. What could I possibly say? Tuesday brought further revelations. Our realtor, James Everett, called about suspicious inquiries. Someone was asking about listing our house for sale, with a pre-approved cash buyer offering $300,000, the same price we paid 5 years ago. The caller claimed to represent me and Dana. Thomas Wade made those inquiries. How do you know that name? Everything clicked. Dana and Thomas hadn't just stolen money. They planned to purchase our house at the old price through a Confederate buyer and flip it at today's $500,000 market value, pocketing the profit. A complete escape plan hidden as a real estate deal. On Wednesday, I met Detective Sarah Flynn from the Richmond Financial Crimes Unit. She confirmed the scheme, targeting properties owned by corporate employees, artificially suppressing market values to force below-market sales. Your system detected the transfer irregularities that uncovered the entire operation. How many victims? 12 families so far. Your case provides our cleanest trail of evidence. I thought of those families, people like me who trusted, planned carefully, and followed rules while others found ways around them. On Thursday, Dana's request to access the frozen funds via emergency court order was denied. Her attorney sought a conference. Your client must prepare for federal indictment. William Brooks explained calmly. The fraud investigation has expanded well beyond just the marital assets. Patricia looked visibly unsettled. Federal wire fraud, conspiracy, and possibly RICO charges if prosecutors proved this was an ongoing criminal enterprise. Dana faced serious prison time, not just for stealing from me, but for orchestrating systematic theft from her employer and coordinating property fraud. That evening, I sent all my financial records to the U.S. Attorney's Office, every fraud alert, monitoring log, and piece of evidence my systems had collected. I didn't build those systems out of spite, but they revealed a crime far bigger than personal betrayal. Justice isn't fueled by anger. It's rooted in facts, patterns, and systems designed to expose the truth. And sometimes the truth destroys more than just marriages. Thursday morning, I testified before the grand jury. Clear, factual, emotionless as I explained how my financial monitoring system operated. The automated alerts triggered at 3 a.m. whenever transfers exceeded preset limits. No human intervention needed. The prosecutor appreciated the technical precision. Did you ever access your wife's accounts without her permission? No. The system monitors joint accounts only. I designed it to flag unusual activity in our shared finances. 2 hours of detailed testimony followed, covering every alert, every security protocol, how the system distinguished normal from suspicious transactions. Dana's potential sentence became painfully clear. The U.S. Attorney's Office charged her with multiple counts of wire fraud, conspiracy, and embezzlement, minimum 20 years if convicted. After the testimony, I drove directly to my office at Orbis Union. My team lead, Michelle Chang, had been managing incoming calls all week. Federal agents requested a full audit of our systems, everything Dana had accessed. We spent Friday compiling 3 years of financial data, every login, transaction, and access point Dana used in her scheme. None of us saw this coming, Michelle admitted quietly. No one did. That's why these systems exist, I reminded her. The weekend brought an unexpected calm. Federal agents seized Dana and Thomas's phones, laptops, and external drives. The evidence piled up by the hour. Sunday afternoon. Patricia called. Nathan, Dana wants to cooperate, offer information about larger financial crimes. She's willing to name names if charges are reduced. That was between her and the prosecutors. They might ask about marital reconciliation as character reference. I thought carefully and said, "Tell them our marriage ended the moment she tried to steal our retirement. The rest is just numbers." Monday, I received formal notice. The investigation into marital assets was complete. All retirement funds would be restored to their original accounts. The joint checking account would be divided equally, $3,000. Half of what Dana assumed was necessary for basic expenses. Tuesday brought finality. Federal indictments issued. Dana, Thomas, and 5 other Valerie employees were charged with running an organized financial fraud scheme across Virginia. At the bail hearing, federal guidelines deemed them flight risks. No bond granted. Dana would remain jailed pending trial. Her text from jail that Tuesday evening read, "I never meant for it to go this far." I finally replied, "You never meant to get caught." Wednesday, the U.S. Attorney offered plea deals, reduced sentences for full cooperation. Dana's choice, 20 years or testify against Thomas and his network. That evening, I cleared out her office in our house. Boxes of marketing materials, files, computer printouts in the bottom drawer. I found a notebook listing real estate prices, property assessments, and 12 addresses. Targets including our own home she'd planned methodically, as I would have, but for theft rather than protection. Thursday afternoon, divorce proceedings resumed, complicated by her incarceration. "Your wife is willing to forfeit all marital property," her new public defender explained, "in exchange for your testimony about her character." I've already testified about what I know. The financial systems, the fraud alerts. She wants personal testimony about your marriage. I reflected on 22 years, the person I thought I knew, the schemes I never suspected. I'll testify to what I observed, nothing more. William filed papers confirming the terms. House remained mine. Retirement accounts restored. Modest alimony denied. Federal sentencing would render it irrelevant Friday. I received a handwritten letter from jail. I got lost in the money. I started seeing how easy it was. Thomas said the systems could be circumvented. I believed him over you. I'm sorry. I placed the letter in my file cabinet. Proof of admission, not forgiveness. The systems I built kept working. Automated, impartial, detecting crime while marriages crumbled. The federal trial lasted 17 days. I testified twice. First about the financial systems, then about my marriage. Did you ever suspect your wife's professional activities? No, I trusted her. When did that trust end? When my fraud detection system caught her trying to transfer our retirement funds without authorization. The jury listened closely. Dana appeared smaller and paler each day. Designer clothes replaced by standard jail uniforms. On day 12, Thomas Wade broke. He accepted a plea deal, 7 years instead of 25, for full cooperation. He revealed everything: marketing budgets, embezzlement, property manipulation schemes, and a network of executives spanning 3 states. Dana's role as coordinator was clear. She managed the books, tracked all activity, ensured nothing looked suspicious on company statements. Ironically, she learned financial diligence by watching me and used it for crime instead of protection. The prosecution played recorded calls with Dana's voice clear. "Nathan's too focused on his systems. He'll never check my work accounts." My wife of 22 years was betting on my respect for boundaries to enable her crimes. Day 17 brought the verdict. Guilty. 12 counts of wire fraud, 8 counts of conspiracy, 2 counts of embezzlement. Sentencing was scheduled 6 weeks later. I left the courthouse and went straight to my truck. No press, no statements, just drove home. The financial system had done its job, catching fraud, providing evidence, delivering justice, not revenge, just consequences. 2 months after sentencing, Dana received 18 years. Thomas 9. I sold the house for $500,000 after fees. More than enough to start fresh elsewhere. I kept my job at Orbis Union and enhanced our fraud detection systems, adding features designed to catch corporate embezzlement. Michelle told me the updates could save companies millions. "That's the point," I said. The divorce finalized quietly. No contested issues. Dana's guilty plea removed all disputes. I signed the papers as she began her prison sentence. William called with an update. Full restitution ordered. Your retirement funds are now permanently protected. I purchased a smaller single-story house in Norfolk, simple with no guest rooms to fill up and no reminders of 22 years gone to waste. I began teaching part-time at Old Dominion University, leading a financial fraud detection class twice a week. Real cases, real insights. Trust but verify. I'd tell my students systems protect when people fail every now and then. I'd get letters from prison. Dana's remorse growing heavier with each day of isolation. I chose not to respond, not to visit, not to forgive. Not out of cruelty, but with clear detachment. The systems worked without feeling. Algorithms spotting patterns, math uncovering truth. I learned to live in the same way. 3 years passed, and my morning coffee routine became ritual. A simple breakfast, automated market checks, drives to work with no particular destination just to clear my mind. Sometimes I'd pass the new Valerie Marketing Group building on errands. A fresh start for them. 12 families received restitution. I relearned how to trust. Cautiously, life went on. Ordered, methodical, secure. The lesson was clear. Betrayal happens, theft occurs, but systems endure. And sometimes justice doesn't come from emotions, but from equations. I've made peace with that kind of math.